Welcome to Failed Forward, a podcast for professionals who are wondering, how the hell did I get here?
Join your host, Rachel Durkan, and me, Donna Miller, as we discuss the messy, bumpy, and often unattractive journey to success.
After all, if it isn't hard to do, is it really worth doing? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Failed Forward, the podcast for those of us wondering, how the hell did I get here? My name is Rachel Durkan. I'm with Paradigm Marketing and Design. We are a web branding, marketing, and sales enablement agency that specializes in working with clients with a complex sale. So if you have a sales team that you want to make more successful, we can build a marketing to sales infrastructure to increase the number of quality leads they're getting, improve their close rate, and maximize your sales cycle. And I always mess that up at the end, right, Donna? Shut up. And I'm joined by Donna Miller. Here, Donna.
Thank you, Rachel Durkan. I am Donna Miller. I am I'm Chief Visionary Officer and founder at C3 Works and Donna Miller Business Growth Consulting, where for the last 30 years, we have been helping companies to accelerate their growth by providing support and advisory services around operations, biz dev, and finance. What we really do is we allow growing teams and business owners to focus on that which truly drives the business forward. And our clients know that by bringing us in, we will build systems that are efficient, connected, and executable either by them or by us. And we're helping them to lay the foundation for a company that will run and grow and be sold without them involved in every little detail. So we are delighted to be joined during this episode by my friend, Susan Ascher. So Susan Ascher, tell our audience about your fabulousness.
Hi, Donna. Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me. I'm Susan Ascher. I am currently your performance coach. I coach people in their careers. So whether it's an executive who is talking too much, listening too little, has a toxic personality, or is not leading the team, or whether it's an executive who wants to continue to grow and prepare for the next role. Could also be someone in transition, someone who at the age of 55 has lost their position in the corporate world and has to reinvent themselves. Could be somebody who's having a life issue. So anything to do with your career and your life, because they're always intertwined. I come to this position via CEO dumb, and I don't mean dumb, DOM, of a very large 200-person staffing firm, which I reinvented probably 2 or 3 or 4 times over the course of its career before I sold it. So we went from a contingency firm to a search firm to a contract staffing firm. We've won every award in the book, from Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year to Inc. 500 to Small Business Person of the Year, yada, yada, yada. So very proud of what I've done. Love helping people really reach their potential. And I feel that, whether it's a child who wants to star in lacrosse or football or hockey, seems like we invest a lot of money in them. I think it's time that we invest a lot of money in our people and our companies and ourselves.
I get it. So, Susan and I have known each other for a minute or two. And, we've traveled in the same circles, and we've had some great conversations. And, we talk about, at this point in our career, how do we stay relevant, and what does that look like? And Susan and I are both definitely connectors and relationship builders. And I think, for both of us, that's definitely been a key to our success. But, before we went live on the podcast, you were telling us a very interesting story, which, my friend, I've never heard before, about how you got your start and what that early process was. And the truth is, it may have been a while ago, but there are always lessons to be learned. And that's what we like to talk about here. So tell us about those early years, Susan, and what it was like for you.
The early years were that I graduated Lehigh University, and my father, the German immigrant, do not come home without a job. And unfortunately, it was at the bottom of a recession. So I went to work in retail in the executive training program of a company. And from day one, I hated it. Was commuting on a bus, sat next to a guy, reading the want ads, which is what we did then. And he looked at me and he said, what are you doing? You don't talk to strangers at that point. And I said, well, I'm looking for a job. And he said, well, congratulations. You've just met the most successful employment agent in the state of New York. He was a real nut. So I he said, listen, do me a favor. You belong in the recruiting business. Meet me at Friendly's tonight at 7 o'clock. I'm going to give you four names and all the information. And I told my fiance, listen, I can't see you tonight. I'm going to go meet this guy. And he's like, over my dead body, I'm coming with you. So the guy came
I'll sit
strolling
three
in.
booths away.
He came running in a roller skates, sat down, gave me four names. Three of them offered me a job. The fourth one became a partner 5 years later when I was looking for another
Wow.
job. So, it's really not what you know always, it's who you know and how
Mhm.
you know people. So in any event, I worked for a company for 5 years and lots of promises. And by the way, as I mentioned to you, 6 or 7 interviews until I got to the CEO. And the questions were things like, what are you getting married? Are you going to have babies? Are you going to work? I mean, it was just, I don't
Yeah.
like to date myself. I'm sure there's still people that do that. But in any event, I was the first woman in that group of beasts, I'm going to call them. They were men, but they were very old fashioned
Oh my
and they would
gosh.
stare at me. We were in a bullpen, screaming and yelling all day long about jobs and telling me really I should be home making babies and what was I doing in this business. And after 5 years of becoming the top producer, I left and started my own company at 28. Balls. And
And you mentioned it's because you would have stayed, but you kept getting passed up for promotions.
exactly. And I kept it. Oh, they would take me to dinner and show me a plan of how I was going to get promoted. They
Mhm.
couldn't find it in themselves.
Yeah.
And they still don't have a woman manager in that company, in that group. So, but it is what it is. And, I hate that saying, but one door closes and another one opens. But we have to seize the opportunity. We have to take that risk. And I think, the big two things about success, right? One is taking a risk. Okay. And a lot of people, we know that we're in the what? We're in the 5%. Maybe we're
Yeah,
in the
Mhm.
1%. I don't have to
right.
compare myself to Jamie Dimon or Mark Cuban, but we're certainly in a very small percentage of people who've taken risks to get to where we are. But the number two thing, and this is what I am constantly preaching to people, and I'm going to say this on your show, women are the worst when it comes to investing in themselves. Okay.
Mhm.
They will invest in $200 cleats for their kids. They will send their kids to soccer camp for a month. They will do all that. But when it comes to, and this is why, ladies, we have not gotten
Mhm.
to where we need to be. It's the same thing in your company. Who do
Mhm.
you go to when you need new computers? You go to yourself. I need a
Mhm.
new computer. This person needs, it's dying. They can't do a business without it. That's a very simplistic thing. A website, the website needs updating. Well, guess what? When you're an owner or a CEO, you have to call those shots. So, and it's the same thing with career and performance. And the thing that I drive home when I speak to these women's groups or even when I'm coaching women. And I'm going to tell you, I am not the woman's coach. I want to coach more women, but they
Mhm.
cannot find it in themselves to invest in themselves the way they need to. Understand that it's not because you're the best accountant in the group, it's
Mhm.
because you have made the relationship with the person that's going to sponsor you into the next role. It's not
Mhm.
about how good you are. Again, it's not what you know, it's who you know, no matter where you are.
So talk to me a little bit, like how should women, or not just women,
Well,
men,
we can talk about, I'd like to say that because
well,
I think they need help.
how should, well, this podcast is for all genders, but
Yes, exactly.
so,
And
so
yeah.
how should people, that's a really interesting concept with who you know. Talk to us more about that. How do you invest in that? How do you invest your time in that?
Well, here's the thing. Now, I have a woman right now. A year ago, she lost her job. She came to me for a consultation. I told her what we would do, the resume, the LinkedIn, the interview prep, and the networking. And see, when you're in the corporate world and you spend 30 years in a bank, they don't care. The only things you network at are internal
Mhm.
team meetings and potentially a conference that your industry is in, which is good, but not everybody
Yeah.
takes advantage of that. So the issue with this particular person is now just the other day she emailed me to say She's been writing to all the HR people, and she's a director, which, by the way, directors are what managers used to be. We just upped the
Mhm.
title, but it's the same thing. And her promotions were director of this, director of this. That's not a promotion. It's great. It enhances your experience. But so now almost a year has gone by, and she's bemoaning the fact that she has made all these contacts with HR people and people she knows. No one wants to hear from you and say, "Hi, Donna, I'm out of a job. Do you know anybody?" No, networking is, "Hey, Donna, how's your business? What can I do for you?" And we know you and Rachel and I know this. Okay. So it's people have to understand. And even it's funny because I was giving a talk last night to, I was actually doing a 2 hour coaching session for some women entrepreneurs and explaining to them that your network is everyone from your hairdresser, right,
Mhm.
to the guy that mows your lawn, to your internal people, to your friends and family and your acquaintances and the people you want to know and the people you need to know. But you can't sit and peck away at your computer and think that when we were in the pandemic, I get it. Okay. I don't know about you guys, didn't do a lot for me at that time. Seeing people and meeting people like we did, Donna, at your Rainmaker event,
At your
that's
culinary.
that's when you really get to know people. Yes. And the culinary, my culinary and
So
your
yeah,
Rainmaker.
so Rachel, you said, how do you build that network? How do you immerse yourself in that network? And in the spirit of the things I think we do wrong, is I do find that entrepreneurs and business owners are sometimes super penny wise and pound foolish about
Yes,
where
Mhm.
they network.
that's true
Oh,
too.
well, I don't want to join that group because it costs $1,000. But hello, you're pre-qualifying. You're in a room with all people who can afford the $1,000. So
Uh-huh.
I think, and Susan, you talk about investing in yourself. I agree. And I think that where you network is part of how you invest in yourself. And,
Absolutely.
what I always say, what table are you sitting at? You got to be
Mhm,
sitting at the right
It,
table.
and
mhm.
it's with a purpose,
Right.
walking into the room and saying,
Right.
I remember when I first learned to network, when I had no idea how to network when I started my business. I just walked into rooms and hoped people liked me. And
Mhm,
it took a long time to figure out that like you've got to segment your list, look at who's going to be at the event, understand if they're your target audience, how can you
mhm.
help each other, what are you going to offer them? And that's a skill that needs to be learned. And talk about failing forward. I mean, I went to so many events where I was like, I didn't know I was there. It was like a waste of 2 hours because I just walked in and said hi to people and then left and handed out a bunch of business cards. You have to be purposeful, but I will say to people who don't know how to do it yet, take the first step, walk in the event and suck at it.
And suck
Just
at it.
you got to
And
do it,
here,
right?
yes, and here again. So last night there were business owners there, and there were people in transition. And one of the gals, and one of the exercises I had them do was their elevator pitch. You
Mm-hmm.
have to know your elevator pitch. And the same thing when you're looking for a job, people will say, the recruiter will say to a candidate, "Tell me about yourself," and they will regurgitate the resume. No, they already have the resume, they've read it, they know what you can do. But now let's talk about your energy level. Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about what excites you. Let's talk about something that you did recently that was a magnificent project, right?
Yeah.
So, but the networking piece is, I have to tell you, and it's so funny. I have a daughter who's a millennial, and she's like, "Oh, mom, I hate that word." So the younger people I know do hate it, but this is what drives success.
Mm-hmm.
It is even going back to the simplistic thing of, "Hey, who cuts your hair?" I mean, it's good to be the person, the go-to person that has the answer for all the connections that you need. And
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know where the next connection is coming from. It could be
And
that person.
when you're also for company leaders, one of the things that's really important is ensuring that everyone within the company can sit at the Thanksgiving table and repeat that same elevator pitch.
Yes.
So, it's funny because we did an exercise years ago when we were doing our core values. And if I asked my graphic designer, who's not always client facing, what do we do? He's gonna be like, well, we design stuff, but we do so much more than that. He designs stuff, right?
Right.
And so does your entire company know the value the company brings,
Right.
your role in that, so that when they're out talking to friends, they can answer that question? You've got to instill it throughout your culture. It's not about just you as a networker, it is, but it's
Mhm.
also about bringing it all the way through and empowering others to be that networker in your organization.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm.
So, and it's just, and the other thing is, so when I'm working, let's say with someone in transition who has come out of the corporate world and they're really not a networker,
Mm-hmm.
and well, where should I go? What should I do right now? And I can speak to this because when I sold my company, I was a lost puppy until I met my coach, and I was all the way out in Scottsdale, Arizona. I went to a conference mostly because I could play golf there, not because I thought I was really going to meet somebody. And I did meet her. And, she just spoke to me and I knew I had to work with her.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started working with her and I realized I had to go to events, I tell people now, I don't care if it's 10, Donna, understand what I'm saying. I don't care if it's a $10 coffee and bagel event to start, okay, to start and the $159 ticket or even the 900, go to whatever you can go to. You're going to quickly weed out where you shouldn't be and figure out, like you said, Doc, people who can afford to, they're only people who are going to be able to afford you and the kinds of things that you can provide them with. Going
Mm-hmm.
to, for me, there are certain places I mean, I can't be with, and I love realtors. I've coached realtors, but going with realtors and whatever, car dealerships, they're great, but they're not at this point, and like you
Your
guys in
audience.
our career, we now have to be very mindful of where we're showing up. But in the beginning, if you're just starting off, just get out there and practice, like you said, Rachel, every opportunity to practice your elevator pitch. And I'm not going to lie, I said this to the group last night. I remember the first time I had to do it to change from the CEO of a recruiting firm to an executive coach. And every time I did it, I felt like I was stumbling
Mm-hmm.
until I finally patented it.
So Susan, let me switch gears for a second. So you mentioned earlier before this podcast started that you had to remake, maybe you said mentioned it during the podcast. You had to remake your business.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so let's wind back. So you didn't get any opportunities for promotion. You busted your ass. You were the best performer, and so you were like,
Hmm.
you know what, screw this. I'm going to do this myself. I can do it better.
Hmm.
You did, and you built a
Hmm.
200-person company. Talk to us about that journey of why did you need to reinvent it? What happened? How did you deal with people as you did that? Give me the synopsis there.
So from the contingency to the search, that was fairly easy. From the search, adding a temporary lower level clerical and administrative temps. But then the economy just fell apart in the dot bomb era. And again, talking about investing, I remember I went to a conference and I met a woman from the UK. And in England, they were called interim executives. And I had taken my last $5,000 out of my checking account. I mean, not that I didn't have some other money, but in the company account. I had taken the last $5,000 and I had brought her into my staff and she coached us on interim executive and how do you do it. And her thing was, you're not writing to your HR person, you're writing to the CEO.
Mhm.
Boy, did that work. I'm talking about Prudential and J&J and these got what they did is they knocked us down, which is I knew she told us this was going to happen to the person that we needed to speak to. But again, we were sponsored by the CEO. The
Right.
CEO said, please talk to this group.
Mhm.
We've downsized to the point of where we've gone from fat into bone. We're hiring no one,
Mhm.
but these guys can provide us with a temporary executive. Of course,
Mhm.
now the people that we placed there originally, they didn't, well, I want a permanent job. And when it's like nails on a chalkboard when people say to me, permanent job. There's every
No such thing.
assignment in
Yeah.
our life, our friendships, our everything is a temporary assignment. Everything. The
True.
president is temporary. Your accountant is a temp. Your lawyer is a temp. So in any event, it was that's what we did. And Prudential actually was our first client. And I remember the guy calling me. I had gone over to see him across the street because I was in New Jersey across the street from him. And he said, well, we're going to need 12 recruiters in one of our offices because we have so many people that we need to hire in IT. And I said, well, you better come over to my office and do the interviewing because I could barely get a meeting with you.
Mhm.
I had two employees left, my admin and my top recruiter who had to go out for knee surgery, which was going to be fine because we were so slow.
Mhm.
I became a one-arm paper hanger. People were coming in the door. I was interviewing them. We ended up filling all the positions, and that was a huge payroll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my banker, who knew me as, like a small business, was able to get behind me, and it was a very different banking world, but get behind me, give us the loan that we needed. And so we self-funded. I never used a
It's
payroll
awesome.
service. It was all self-funded. And, at that point, I had gotten a letter from a young lady who had worked for Seagram's as a PR person, and she was looking to do it for a company. And she came in, and she goes, you have to go for entrepreneur. You have to go for you're doing it. You're killing it. And I was like, what? Anyway, she was, again, the investment that I made in her.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
have never won those awards. I didn't even know the first thing. I was busy building a business.
Right.
Yeah.
And as we kind of, we're running out of time here, and that's
Yes.
kind of where I wanted to land is what I heard you say and what I know that's true for me. And I think of 2008, 2009, 2010, my business just came to a screeching freaking halt. I had a different set of, I was staffing differently. I should have made changes sooner. I didn't. But what I did do was I invested. It was a lot of money. It was a 5-figure number in sales training. And I thought to myself, there's nothing I can do about everything else going on out there, but I can take this time and try and make me better at what I do. That was probably one of the best investments I made in my entire career. The other one was to pay to sit at the right table. So I do want to say that I completely agree with you. We have to risk, we have to invest, because who better to bet on but ourselves?
Because
I
you
mean, my
can't bet
goodness,
on yourself, right?
who
Yeah.
can you bet on? So,
Yeah.
Rachel, any closing thoughts?
No, you nailed it. I love that. So
Okay.
so Susan, tell us, as we're running up on time, tell us where our audience can learn more about you.
Well, obviously my website, susanascher.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook, Susan Ascher. You can find me on Instagram, Susan Ascher Career Coach. And I do post, and Donna has recently been to one of my events, and they're a lot of fun, and get to know a lot of great people. And just look for me. I'm involved in a lot of different things. I just accepted a board position with the Scouts of America, who now are becoming very big for men and women,
Yay.
on leadership values, and all those things that are going to make for the right people in our future. So, but ladies,
Awesome.
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Can I answer anything else, or am I good?
I think we're
Oh,
good. So
by
we
the
want to,
way,
yeah.
and they can call me, okay? 973-919-8180. And
Okay.
text. I love
Awesome.
love letters, etc. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you, Susan. And thank you to our audience for joining us for another episode. And as always, I want to encourage you to embrace failure. It really is the only way you're going to get from here to where you want to be. So let that ego go, embrace it. And until next time, we wish you every success. Take
okay,
care, everyone.
ladies. Thank you. Thanks,
Bye,
ladies.
everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.